Next, I'd like to recognize Representative McClintock to do our next introduction, and I'm anxious to hear the pronunciation of this gentleman's last name.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if you ever watch the sheriffs of El Dorado County, Sheriff D'Agostini needs no introduction. His leadership was the inspiration for that series that ran between 2014 and 2019. He served as El Dorado County Sheriff for 12 years until his retirement earlier this year. Throughout his career, he served in practically every capacity in law enforcement. He was the moving force behind construction of the new public safety headquarters in Placerville. H.R. 1642 was actually first proposed by the sheriff and his wife, Janine, and it's great to have him here today.
You are recognized, sir.
Thank you very much. Sorry. Chairman, honorable members of this committee, I'm honored to be here to testify today in support of Congressman McClintock's bill, H.R. 1642. My name is John D'Agostini, and I'm the recently retired sheriff, coroner, and public administrator for the county of El Dorado in California. In 2010, I was elected to that seat and served 3 terms, retiring just December 30th of this last year. Prior to that, I served as an investigator for the Amador County District Attorney's Office for 8 years, and prior to that, for the Amador County Sheriff's Office for 10 years. As sheriff, I was responsible for the safety and security of the entire unincorporated area of El Dorado County, 392 full-time employees, and over 400 volunteers. I administered during catastrophic wildfires, floods, civil unrest, homicides, child abuse, rapes, and every other issue our nation's peace officers deal with. Also during my administration, I led my agency through a line-of-duty death and also through the tragedy of the loss of one of our own taking their own life. When I first became sheriff, I instituted a vision statement. Directs the service style to this day. That vision statement is simple: a modern approach to traditional law enforcement values, total enforcement on crime and criminals, total care for victims, witnesses in the community, and total professionalism through training and by example. Another novel idea brought to the El Dorado County Sheriff's Office upon my arrival was a support group led by my wife, Janine. See, growing up in law enforcement, there were numerous resources and programs available to me through my employer that provided mental and physical health services. However, there were no such services available to my family. Obviously, the families behind the officers are that officer's bedrock for mental health and well-being. That organization, Thrive with 1035 being the 10 code for backup, provides support and services for the families of those that serve so that those that serve have the support and backup at home they need to mentally survive their career in law enforcement. Other organizations such as How to Love Our Cops, Wounded Blue, and Warriors Rest also help our law enforcement officers and their families thrive throughout their career. This brings me to the purpose of this bill. Of the many challenges that I overcame in my career, more specifically as sheriff, the challenge of leading and serving subordinates, recruiting and retaining quality staff have been some of the most daunting. It's no surprise that the last few decades have been challenging for law enforcement as it relates to public perception and acceptance. It's also no revelation that the job of the American peace officer has become more challenging, especially in the last decade. Whether it's dealing with civil unrest, bad apples in the ranks and the resulting distrust, etc., the job of providing equal justice within and under the law has become increasingly demanding, both physically and mentally. It was my wife who first presented the idea of this bill, providing some national benefit to our nation's law enforcement officers. It in no way is intended to reduce the appreciation we have for our nation's armed forces. It was just an idea to let our officers know that we support them too. While our armed forces protect our national security and interests abroad, our law enforcement officers do the same within our nation's boundaries. The idea was presented to our congressman, the Honorable Congressman McClintock, and after discussing the idea with our local veterans groups, he also saw the value in the idea. While I'm sitting here before you as a retired peace officer, we can't forget our brothers and sister first responders, our nation's firefighters. They also stand at the front lines, not for peacekeeping, but for safekeeping. Many times in my career, they were side by side with me through horrendous situations, whether wildfires, floods, terrible traffic collisions with multiple casualties, airplane crashes, violent crime scenes, etc. They are our brothers in red and face similar nightmares and daydreams as our peace officers. By providing an incentive for our peace officers and firefighters, such as the benefit this bill provides, not only shows them that our leaders value them, but it will incentivize them to get out into our gorgeous and historical national parks and federal lands. I know that my time spent in these places helped me during my career to appreciate our nation's beauty and history, and in turn reduce stress and help serve my communities in a more even-keeled and calm manner. Incentivizing our nation's peace officers and firefighters to also visit these areas and spend valued time with their families will do the same. This bill is important and appropriate at this time, given the temperature of our nation's posture towards law enforcement and firefighters. It serves a valuable purpose, recognizing and incentivizing a valuable population in our society. I humbly ask that this bill is supported. Thank you.